If you've ever wondered how old your Haag-Streit slit lamp is, if you have the serial number, that could give you a pretty good idea of the age it is. Now, these days, Haag-Streit puts a label on the bases of their slit lamps that tell the year that it was manufactured. But before they did that, it may have been hard to tell. But here's some information that might help you. Looking at the serial number, there's always going to be some 900.1.1, but it's the numbers after the last point that are usually the serial number. And starting in 62, these were the serial numbers. And if you wanted to look at those, that could help you. And then in 1986, the BQs came online, and they had these serial numbers. 1990 to 95, these were the serial numbers. These are the BMs, these are the BQs. 96 to 98. And I don't have information further than that, except to say that around the year 2000, they started putting labels on the base. Before the year 2000, or around there, if you wanted to find the serial number, you could find it on this plate on the left-hand side on the axle. The numbers are right there. And it will have 900.1.1 and then your serial number. And then around the year 2000, they continued to have the serial number there, but they started putting this label on the front of the base, and it has the year manufactured there. So this is like a removable label, and just as these plates are too. But that's where they started doing it. And around the year 2002, they didn't put numbers on this plate anymore. It was always on here. So going forward after this, the serial numbers were always, and the year were always on this label. The serial number, it will say serial number. It's really small, but even if you don't have the serial number, sometimes you can look at the slit lamp from a distance and tell how old it might be. If the parts are original equipment and they haven't switched, the older style is going to have the old style illumination cap, and then they moved up to the new style and they put 900 on here, and then they even progressed higher, same cap, but they put BM 900 on here, on this cap. This looks like around the year 2000. So if it doesn't have that, then it's probably earlier than 2000. Another thing you can look at is look at the joystick. This is the old style, and it was progressed to a metal joystick with a cover on it, and now the newest ones don't have a cover on it at all. Another thing you can look at is your tower, like the base of the tower. The older style is going to be all black, but then around the year 2000 they started making this lower part hammer tone versus black. And then they progressed from there to the modern style. They've changed the design, and it's total hammer tone color. Even the paint has changed. Now that the newest style has got a more grainy type of paint, almost like a powder coating, versus the older style of hammer tone. This stuff might peel, but this is really strong adhesive, that type of coating. And you can look at, like, the newer ones are going to have a diffuser on the mirror, whereas the older versions don't. Another thing you can look at, if it's all original equipment, you can look at their power supply. This is the older style, and they progressed to this type of power supply. And then even the LED has a smaller, and the cap of the LED is much wider because it includes the LED part of it, and it's going to say LED. Also, the breath shields have changed. It's a longer one on the older style, and the newer style has a shorter type of breath shield. So those are just some details you might want to look for if you're trying to date your Haag-Streit slit lamp. If everything is the original equipment, just by looking at it from a distance you can tell if it's a newer one or an older one. If you have the serial number, that is helpful too. So in summary, if you have the serial number of your Haag-Streit slit lamp, that's good. And if you have the information about when it was manufactured, you can tell how old it is. Now, a lot of the parts are interchangeable, so if it's not original and parts have been switched with each other, well, it's still going to be a Haag-Streit slit lamp, but it just may not be completely original, which is okay. And if you're looking at it from a distance, you don't have access to the serial number, again, some telltale signs are the cover, the joystick, what type of elevation it is. This is a reach forward. That's very old. That's very old. You can look at the joystick. But I did want to point out something about the BQ. Now, this is a more modern BQ base. They made it larger so that they could include some support springs. But the older versions of the BQ had the same type of base as a BM. So even though your BQ, which you'll recognize it because it has the rotary mag changer and the different head. But another way you can tell is the base. But it may not necessarily be that one. If it's a smaller style, it's a very old version. But this is a newer one. I just wanted to point that out about the BQ. And I hope that helps you determine the date of manufacture of your slit lamp. And just as a side note, if you were opening up some of these older versions of the BMs, the date is also stamped on the prisms inside here. But that's just information you don't really need to know. But it's interesting that they also stamped the date that these prism assemblies were manufactured inside.